Psychiatrist Dr. Joshua Weiner joins us today to share some easy practices backed by science that help set a brighter, balanced tone no matter what the day brings. You know, they say getting up on the right side of the bed is important, stepping off on the right foot. We all understand that's important, but sometimes we're not always energized, not always positive. We can feel rushed or sluggish. The morning is always a little tricky. What are some habits people can build into their morning routine to really set themselves up for a productive day?
So the big three, of course, there are many, but the big three that I think we should focus on, one is immediate hydration. The other is sunlight exposure early in the morning. And the third one is going to be when you time your caffeine use, if you use caffeine.
We always feel like we always have to drink more water, drink more water. Does it really support a better mood and sustained energy?
Absolutely. It really does. So here's something that I think people will find interesting. Women are much more susceptible to issues related to dehydration than men. And you've got to realize that while you're sleeping, you're breathing off a lot of your water. And so you're waking up with a deficit of water. So you want to make sure that when you get up, you have a couple glasses of water. Ideally, you're putting a little bit of electrolytes in there to help with hydration as well. That could be a pinch of salt, maybe some liquid IV or some electrolyte solution. But interestingly, women have less of their weight is water compared to men. So women have about 60% body water as a percentage of their weight. Men, it's closer to 70%. That's why if you take equal size people, man and a woman, and they both drink the same amount of alcohol, the woman's blood alcohol concentration is going to be higher because there's less water in her body to dilute it. So I think a lot of people, probably are unaware of that. And I just bring that up to stress that women are susceptible to dehydration more than men. They're going to have more issues with lower mood, irritability, and lower energy. A lot of women get lightheaded and tired throughout the day. The best thing I can recommend is this water in the morning with electrolytes.
So what role does morning sunlight exposure play in enhancing your daily mood and energy levels?
We're animals, right? And sunlight makes a difference. So when you wake up, you have a spike in cortisol levels. It's called the cortisol awakening response. It occurs about 45 minutes after you wake up. What you want to do ideally is time your exposure to sunlight to that time when your cortisol levels are rising. And in fact, when you expose yourself to sunlight during those times, cortisol levels will go up by about 30%. So ideally, you're waking up. After about a half hour, you get ready, brush your teeth, shower, etc. Go sit outside for about 10 minutes. You want to get that sunlight exposure. If it's a lousy day, really cold, you don't want to sit outside, you can get one of these seasonal affective disorder lamps. You can get them on Amazon for about $40 and do the same thing where you sit in front of that for about 15, 20 minutes in the morning. That's going to boost mood, it's going to boost energy, and it's going to help regulate your circadian rhythms, which is going to help with sleep later in the night.
What about the optimizing the timing of your morning caffeine? This is really curious for me because, depending on your schedule, I probably drink too much caffeine in the morning, and then sometimes I need a boost in the afternoon too.
First of all, caffeine has actually more studies show benefits from a mental health perspective with caffeine when used in moderation. So a couple cups, so a couple 100 milligrams a day of caffeine can have beneficial effects. People do need to realize, though, caffeine has a long half-life. So it's about 6 hours. So that means 12 hours after you've had your coffee, it's still in your system. So some people are incredibly sensitive to that, and it'll screw up their sleep even 12 hours later. However, if you want to optimize your caffeine use, you actually want to wait about an hour and a half to 2 hours after you wake up. There's some scientific reasons behind this. It has to do with something called adenosine. But what you want to do is have it about 90 to 120 minutes after you wake up. And that actually is going to help you have the most effect from the caffeine from an energy and mood perspective. Plus, it's going to decrease the likelihood of you having that crash and needing that afternoon second cup of coffee.
It's hard to delay your caffeine in the morning, but all great advice. Dr. Joshua Weiner, thanks so much for joining us.